Welcome to the Balance Virtual Trainer Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia. I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness and your Balance Ambassador. Today we have another guest in the yoga realm, but also another instructor on the Balance platform. We have Jen from a little bit above Scottsdale, I believe we were talking about before. Jen, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Yes, always great to connect with you, chat, have you on a podcast episode. Let's kick things off with, can you share a little bit about what you were doing prior to streaming workouts online?
Yeah, of course. Basically teaching workouts in person. Definitely teaching in the local studio, the local fitness center. I was teaching here in Phoenix for the Honor Health Hospital group, doing some employee wellness as well as some cancer care class. And, just kind of doing the usual yoga teacher thing, driving around to a few different places, being involved in a handful of yoga communities.
Gotcha. And when the whole transition to online occurred, were you ready or did you take some time to get ramped up?
I was more ready than I thought I was, actually. I already had a good computer with a great camera, and I had already been doing some like online courses and things with sort of the other parts of yoga, right? Some of the yoga philosophy and yoga practice elements, and had done quite a bit of recording in that way and a little bit of recording yoga classes. I hadn't done as much of that, but I was pretty familiar with, just the technology and the logistics of getting it recorded and edited and uploaded wherever I'm going to upload it. And so that part was not hard at all. The hardest part for me really was learning to teach yoga classes to nobody. Was the hardest thing.
I'm sure a lot of instructors were in that boat when you're just standing in front of a camera. And if you are not streaming, if you're pre-recording, I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, I got to stop. I got to redo that. That wasn't good. And find themselves in one of these positions where they're like on like the fifth take, sixth take. And they're like, I don't even know if any of those were good. And essentially they're just trying to get that wheel going. Do you have any tips for instructors that are pre-recording and they are maybe finding some challenges with just getting that full class recorded?
Yeah, absolutely. I really do. Early on, when I very first started recording some of these online courses and experiences for people that were not really yoga related, I took a little challenge on a Facebook group, and it was all about recording video, getting comfortable with video, and some of the elements of recording videos that maybe you hadn't thought about before if you were new to the game, about how to frame yourself in the camera shot and lighting and microphones and all of that stuff. And so that was super helpful, but really probably the most helpful takeaway I got from that, and I have used it to great advantage many times over, is as much as possible record things once. And
I like that.
Yeah. And it seems a little counterintuitive, like, well, wouldn't you want it to be recorded again and make sure it's perfect? But the problem is when we put that pressure on ourselves for it to be perfect, we end up recording it 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And the quality of our presentation actually tends to deteriorate because it sounds more and more canned.
Yeah, agreed.
And so when you record once, you kind of pretend like it's live. You're not so worried about the little bobble in your speech or cueing the right arm twice. You just say, oh, yep, I meant left, and you move on with it, and you stay more natural in the whole process. And I mean, it saves tons of time too, right?
Yeah.
You record a 1-hour class in one time, you spend an hour plus the editing. If you feel like it has to be perfect, my goodness, you may be recording it a couple of times a day for a week, trying to get the one that seems just right. So
yeah. My next question, and it kind of just came up because I don't think, so little background for the listeners that Jen and I have podcasted. This is our third time. And I feel like you just mentioned something that I didn't know before, that I was like, oh, this might be a good topic to go into. Because I'm sure there are other instructors, not just in the yoga area, but all instructors that potentially are learning a new skill set and it has to do with editing? You just briefly mentioned with a little bit of editing. What kind of editing are you doing right now on your workouts?
As little as possible. I edit it only enough to get out the beginning where I'm turning on the camera and walking to my spot. And then what happens after I finish the last namaste and I'm walking back to the camera. And then if I really need to, like, let's say a really loud motorcycle drove by because my yoga room is on the side closest to the street, I may go in and edit out that big vrooming motorcycle noise sound, or if someone delivers a package and the dog starts barking, or all of those kind of things, I will take the time to edit that out. But by and large, I really just let it be as natural as possible. And that has helped me keep my sanity.
Oh, I bet. I am someone that edits quite a few workouts on a weekly basis, and times where when sounds come in that you weren't planning for, even though I will admit that once you do go up the scale of editing software, it's pretty amazing what they can do these days with with audio. And probably the hardest thing, or the coolest thing, it's probably the adjective is probably coolest thing that I've edited out, is a dog barking. And this was over a voice. And with software these days, like I said, it's very, very fascinating what they can do with it, but it can basically capture that noise print and then remove it from a whole sound wave, which is crazy. And it's just amazing what they can do. But I'm trying to decide now which part to go into on the next part, because I know there's some really cool stuff that I want to dive into. I think I'm going to start now with your yoga space and what you've done with, I believe it's a room in your house. Can you kind of share that process of identifying the room that you wanted to turn into your in-home studio and kind of what you did to it?
Yeah, it was a fairly easy process, actually. I live in a smaller 3-bedroom home, and I knew I didn't want to try to convert my master bedroom into a recording space, because that just didn't sound like any fun. Dual purposing a room where you're really trying to relax mostly. And so it was between the other two. And really it came down to the fact that one room was much longer than the other one. And so I could easily set up my camera on one end of the room and you could see my entire yoga mat and my reach all the way overhead in one room, but you couldn't in the other. So that really made the decision for me as far as which room to choose. And then from there, it was, at first I thought, I just need it to be as blank as possible. So I actually changed the wall color to be a nice neutral kind of medium tone color. And then I did have blinds on the window so there wasn't any glaring sun. And I recorded a video and realized immediately that was never going to do. The sound was so loud, you could actually hear the echo, and it's just a bedroom, right? It's not like it's the Grand Canyon. It's just a bedroom, but you could hear a super strong echo, and the space felt really stark even on the video. And I thought, okay, so this isn't it. And so I just started getting some softer elements. I got a nice heavy curtain that I could put over the window that helped to absorb and deaden the sound. I put a big rug on the floor, an 8x10 rug. The closet doors in that bedroom were, like the sort of folding wooden doors. And I took those down and put a curtain up in that space as well. And that went just miles to helping the sound quality feel more present and less dark. And so that was really one of the biggest things I did. And then as far as the way the video looked, when you're watching it back on whatever platform, at first I felt like even the background, the plain background, it wasn't distracting, except for it kind of was, because it was too plain. So what I ended up doing was putting a little candle stacked candle thing over in one corner and then a silk tree in the other corner. And that just warmed it up a little bit. And it
Mm-hmm.
surprisingly actually provided a little more perspective for the videos too. I noticed that before I had those elements, it was sometimes kind of hard to see how far forward or back my arms were or my legs were. But
Mm-hmm.
by adding in those elements that added a little bit more depth, you could see the depth in the room. It made all the difference in the world for being able to tell what my body was doing in the space.
I bet. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I honestly didn't think about that before, but I've always thought about little features, whether it's candles or a little table, or for me, I use a lot of fake plants. And the
Mhm.
joke that I'm going to say is that I didn't know how much fake plants cost
Oh my
before
gosh. They're
this last
expensive.
year. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're so expensive. And whether I'm sitting at my desk filming space and in the background you see fake plants, or even in either of my two studios, it's fake plants. There's fake plants everywhere because they help hide things. They can
Uh-huh.
hide extra space. They can hide little crevices that you don't want to see, and then it just makes it look more appealing. That's kind of the approach I've always taken with them. And oh my goodness, fake plants! I've never even, I didn't know where they sold fake plants before. I'm not saying that because it's probably more like I'm not the best designer. That's probably more it. But I've been to every single place: IKEA, Hobby Lobby, all like the places like the Rosses and all those places. I've been there and I've looked for fake plants. But your
Yeah.
point is very valid that it helps create that depth of field, so you could see kind of where someone is in frame. That adds that extra element to it, and it's a nice little piece of design as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too that I noticed that I was able to cover up was electrical outlets.
Yes.
I really appreciated being able to get rid of some of that, visual noise there.
Yes, that's a good one right there. Just those little pieces there. And I think one of the things that we kind of talked about last time in a different podcast was about how you can transform a space in your house to make it look super professional, in my opinion. People don't know what's behind a camera. If you are in a room in your house, you could honestly transform it into a professional studio. The best example that I could give is that the room where I currently record, I have a space next to me where it's designed to make it look like it's inside of a gym. There's gym flooring, there's rubber trim that you would typically see. It's a neutral
Mhm.
color on the wall, things that you would typically see. And who's to know that it's not just another wall and a gym that
Exactly.
gives that appeal to it. And really, you're just in your house. You're making a convenience thing out of it. And it's a professional thing too, that there's such a, in my opinion, there's such a big difference between the instructor that takes that extra step to create an in-home studio than someone that's, and there's nothing wrong with it if you're filming in your living room, making it work that way. I just think that it's one of those pieces where you're adding value. I feel like when you are an instructor in a gym, you're always trying to find ways to, how do I add value to my class? How do I stand out from my peers in a virtual space? I feel like an in-home studio is that piece. Would you agree?
I absolutely would. I mean, I've taken tons of online classes now, of course, too, just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I found to be shocking and not in a good way was taking a class from a teacher, and the class itself was fantastic, but she filmed it it must have been like maybe the breakfast nook or the edge of the dining room or something, and literally had big, huge knives on a magnet strip on the wall at at the edge
Intense.
of the frame. And I thought it was kind of terrifying.
Not the best ambiance right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For myself, when I was getting my own company up and going, interviewed a lot of instructors, and it was always something that for me, it was like, okay, what does your space currently look like? Okay, we can figure it out. What does it look like? We can make things work, but at least take the time to kind of clean up your space, your background, because people, and this was a tip that I actually got from a professional editor, someone that makes commercials, trailers, movies, that she said, you need to clear up anything in your background because anybody watching, they're going to get distracted by just the one thing. Yeah, the video that she watched of mine was there was cords in the background from a TV. She's like, you got to clear those up because people are going to catch it and they're just going to stare at it and not be listening to you. That's a prime example of those knives there. You caught it and you couldn't stop thinking about it. And now you're not paying attention to the class. And those are those steps that just go a long way. Next thing that I'd like to chat about is your setup. That's one of the things I feel like everybody loves to hear about, whether it's a podcast or it's a show on a Facebook Live or even just a video on YouTube. People want to know what your setup is for yourself, the kind of class, the yoga classes that you're doing. What is it? The camera to the microphone to the lights, all that kind of stuff. What are you using?
I keep it simple. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record because I keep saying that, but it really is true. I keep it simple. I was extremely fortunate in my timing. The couple months before everything shut down at the beginning of the pandemic, I had ordered a new computer. It was just time, and literally picked it up from the Apple store the last day the Apple store was open. It had come in that day before. They called me and they said, we're closing tomorrow. We don't know how long. If you want this computer, you got to come get it. So of course, I mean, you'd be right there to pick up a brand new computer anyway, but that just added a little more urgency to it. And so I had a brand new computer, and that was great because I had a pretty decent camera on the computer. I have a pretty okay microphone that's built into the computer as well. And when I first started recording the videos, I listened back and watched back and thought, yeah, this is totally great. The sound was good. And the camera was good. One of the things I think I have had the most challenge with really has to do with lighting. Lighting has been the hardest thing for me because I'm a big fan of natural light. I think natural light's great, but I found that trying to use just natural light, well, the window was over on the side of my space rather than, facing my face. And so one side of me was really well lit and the other side wasn't. But then if I put too harsh of a light on the other side, it looked really harsh. And so I tried all kinds of things. I, got a couple of different ring lights, but they were too far away to really light me up well. I tried all sorts of things. And then sort of by accident, kind of came across the idea of using rope lights. And they kind of created a ring light effect for my whole room. So I just ran them around the top and the bottom of the room, and it basically made it like a ring light. So that was really the hardest thing for me, but it turned out to be solved with just a couple of strings of rope lights, which I was very surprised by. And then I think the other challenge with that was finding the ones with the right light temperature. I ordered the first set and they were kind of that LED looking weird yellowy glow. Well, that wasn't going to do. So I had to order some that were specifically, I think it was the daylight look. So it was bright, but not fluorescent, and not too warm, even though I love a good warm yellowy lamp. It didn't look great on camera. It always looked like I was recording at nighttime with the yellowy color, the warm color. So the daylight color was the one that worked really well for me. And so rope lights, a good computer. I do know a couple of my friends have done really well recording on their iPhone. So, if you have a good stand for your phone, that's certainly a viable option too. But thankfully for me, the computer has been the way to go.
Nice. The piece that I'm going to expand on a little here with the lights is that, in my opinion, lighting is one of those key elements that will just make the quality of the video look so much better. And a part of it is that it makes the camera work better. It's going to make it easier on the camera. When there's not much light, the lens is basically trying to either detect or it's trying to pull as much light from what it's looking at into it. So it's working harder. The second that you add more light into the filming space, all of a sudden, if you're using your iPhone, 4K looks like 4K, that it looks clear, it looks great. And those are the pieces that we don't really think about. We just think, oh, I got my camera. But the second you put some light on a subject, oh my goodness, just makes it so much easier. And it's that experimenting that you mentioned with natural light, different types of light bulbs. That's a process that whether you are teaching yoga, you're teaching kickboxing, cycling, whatever it might be, you have to go through that process to find that system that works for your format. I know that I've mentioned that with talking about microphones, but lighting could be the same exact thing. You're trying to fit the need to it. You're trying to fit something to it, and not necessarily it crosses over apples to apples. What you're lighting for a cycling class might look completely different for a yoga class. And that's the uniqueness of online workouts, in my opinion, with that. But then a segue now to talking a little about balance, because this is the Balance Virtual Trainer podcast. It'd be great to kind of hear, because I actually don't know myself, how you utilize the platform.
I have used it a few different ways. I have used the aspect of teaching, live classes that are set at a specific time. And I have found that as convenient as it theoretically is to have pre-recorded classes, there are lots of people who they want that accountability of the class starts at 9:00 and I have to be there. Even if being there means in my bedroom or living room, but turning on the camera or turning on the video. And so I do like that option quite a bit. I've also used it to offer like a video on demand, because there are people also who they just need it when they need it or want it when they want it, whichever way that works. And so to have the opportunity to be able to take class whenever you want to has really been such a gift for a lot of people who maybe have had a hard time with regular studio or gym schedules, because, there's not a lot of at least yoga classes. And I would imagine it's probably pretty true across the board for lots of fitness styles and lots of facilities, that there's not a ton of classes offered at 1:00 and 2:00 in the afternoon. If you do have a little bit of an unconventional work schedule, there's not a lot of classes at 3 and 4 a.m. or at 8 or 9 and 10 p.m. Yeah. And so for those people, the video on demand option is a great way to kind of fill in the gaps so that they can get their body moving, let go of the stress, change their mindset, and then be prepared for whatever part of their day is next.
Agreed. 100% agree on all those items there. And follow-up question now with the Balance platform. Prior to it, would you have considered yourself I don't like that word techie, but would you feel like you were usually able to figure out different platforms? And would you say that Balance was easier for you to integrate into your business?
Well, you're hearing it here for the first time. I am a complete computer nerd. So yes, I would consider myself to be pretty techie. I love playing around with all of the gadgets and things. So that particular part has not ever been challenging for me personally. So yes, integrating Balance is very simple for me. I do feel like that it's a simple platform to use and understand. And I will also say that there was something or other, and I don't remember what it was now, in the beginning that I did have a little bit of a challenge with. And the team at Balance is so awesome. They just helped me immediately and got the little glitches worked out. And really, it was a non-event, obviously, because I can't even remember what it was.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I find the support at Balance to be second to none.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Very good to hear. I think all the feedback I've heard with Balance and instructors is the ease of use with it, the integration, and the ability to not just use it for online classes, but also listing your live work that you're doing, things like that you're not going to really get in other platforms. And the ability to have those features can be, for some instructors, a way to get around not having a website. They can essentially just have their whole business there and run it, which makes it pretty unique, in my opinion. Jen, as we get now to the podcast closing tips, and this is a spot for you. Share as much advice as you'd want with it. What are 2 closing thoughts on the future of the fitness industry that you'd like to share?
The first thing I would say is we have to be flexible and not just, can you touch your toes kind of flexible, but to be willing to move with how things are moving. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest things that we've all learned over the last 2 years is that we have to be nimble. And so sometimes that means something simple like being willing to change up a class time or format. And sometimes it means the difference between teaching in person and online, which is a much bigger one. But there's all sorts of other things that are always changing. What do the demographics need as far as their fitness is concerned? As different, generations come into different stages of life, what does that mean? And how are we going to continue to meet fitness needs for people as they get older? And even the kids coming up as they become young adults and are looking for fitness class options, how are we going to meet their needs? How is their young adulthood different than the people who are currently retiring's young adulthood? And what does that mean for their movement? So being nimble and really practicing a lot of awareness for the people that we're trying to bring a little extra joy and movement to their lives.
I like that. Next one. I think that was one. You got to give me one more.
Oh, let's see, Tyler. The other thing I would say is in the middle of all that, staying true to your own style and calling as far as fitness goes. Each one of us has something different to deliver and a different way of delivering it. And even in the middle of having to learn tech or changing up formatting or age groups, how do I stay true to who I am and the passion that I have for fitness and the way I communicate it, and continue to do that and demonstrate my own authenticity so that really connects with each person in a unique way?
I like it. I like that. The one I'm kind of going to touch on, I'm debating because I liked the nimble part and the different audiences. And I feel like I've talked about that too many times, but I'm going to chat a little bit about the being nimble and learning and adapting to things, because I feel like that's been one of the parts that some fit pros have had trouble with, that the online aspect accelerated the need to learn technology and integrate it. And still we have some fit pros that don't want to learn how to utilize social media. And then we'll say, well, maybe that's why my business isn't growing. And it's like, well, yeah, there's so many free resources out there that you could learn how to use Instagram or use Facebook or use Facebook Live or whatever platform you want to use. There's so many resources out there that I feel like sometimes we just get in our ways, our own way as a fit pro. And social media is just one step. And it's one of those things that if you want to be in the industry, you have to learn it, whether you're at a gym, you're doing it by yourself, and just learning how to utilize it to grow your business. Of course, there's some things that a lot of us don't like about it, but just use it for your business then, and then log off. That's as simple as that.
It's very simple. You're right.
Yeah, that's my opinion on that. But Jen, before we sign off, can you share your social media links where people can find you with your website, and then any upcoming classes that you have?
Absolutely. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can find me at Jen Tarrant Yoga, and try to keep up with those as much as possible throughout the days and weeks. And then I do have an online class that is starting coming up on Monday, December the 6th, and it's called Holiday Peace. It's yoga and meditation for stress during the holidays, which I think we all get a little bit of. And its real purpose is to give each person who comes a little bit of time for themselves to focus in, offer some care and compassion, and kind of hit that reset and recharge button so that we can do all of the things we want to do during the holidays and see all of the people we want to see, and be able to do that with our best self without feeling so stressed out and fatigued. So I really hope that people take advantage of it. It's a great way to interact and take care of yourself during a busy time of year. Agree.
And I can say that I've seen you talking about it on your stories, up on there, using those Instagram stories, sharing what you got coming up. All great stuff. Jen, thank you as always for coming on, chatting with me, sharing all this good stuff, great information that people can utilize. Always appreciate it.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to talk to you too, Tyler.